All right, well, we are back. For those of you who do not know Dr. Ron Lewis, who have not joined us previously, Dr. Ron is very knowledgeable in leadership. He's a huge friend of the college. He has presented to thousands about leadership opportunities, and he is presenting on our session 3 on communication with impact. So I'm going to turn it over to Ron. Ron, it's all.
Appreciate it, Carrie, my sister. Thank you. I'm back in your life once again. I hope you're doing well. Today, I want to talk about session 3, communicating with impact, and why this is important. And I think it's important that we go back to what we have already looked at, because I want us to keep in mind that this idea of communication is a thread that kind of keeps us together. This is how we express our leadership. This is one way we can express team building. And we're going to talk about how to be a team player on May 5th. But this is a way that we express our emotional intelligence by the words that we use, by our body language, and all that other good stuff. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get my screen shared over here. All right, my peeps. Hopefully you see all that. Carrie, we can see that. Thumbs up. Perfect. Good. So again, my name is Ron Lewis, and as Carrie said, I've been doing this since 2012. I love this work right here. Okay, I love this work. So if you ever need to get a hold of me, between Carrie, or you can just reach out to me directly, no problem. All right, let's get to it. The big idea here. The big idea, and I start to put this in almost every presentation because I think it's so important that we understand why we're here. We're not here just to change some behavior. We're here to make a breakthrough. And we make breakthroughs by changing and working on our mental maps. Okay? You can have all the goals and the dreams that you want, but if you have a poor mental map, it's going to lead you in the wrong direction. Okay. And I find, at least when I work with college students, they have lofty dreams, even professionals for that matter, but lofty dreams, lofty goals. But the mental map is not a good guiding principle for them. So with that, the dreams that they have or the goals that they have comes almost more challenging just because they're working on a poor mental map. So that's what I hope to do in our next, in all of the series I've been, is just kind of break down some of those paradigms that you currently have, and maybe have you consider some things that make you say, never thought about it that way. Or something you have thought about, or something someone else has stated. All that is extremely, extremely important. And I have a quote for you. A quote that I find true to my heart is that an unchallenged brain should never be trusted. An unchallenged brain should never be trusted. So I am trying to challenge you in some ways that it will be my hope that help you make a breakthrough in some way, somehow. Okay. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a quick review. And then I want to connect the dots. I want to connect the dots on what we have already talked about in the past. And then I want to talk about that communication with the impact. Okay. So in our first session, I gave you some rules to leadership. Number 1, leadership is ownership. Okay. Number 2, you can't give what you don't have. And number 3, we have to respect what is. Okay. We have to respect people where they are. Okay. That X is because I think it's one of the most important. I think we have a lot of conflict today because we approach people on where they should be and not where they are. All right. So those are some rules from leadership. That's what we learned in session 1, along with the circle of influence. Okay. Now, again, I want to tie this all back to communication. That's the goal here. So remember, the circle of concern, those are the things we have no control over. And that circle of influence are those things we have direct control over. And the key word here is direct. I want you to know you have direct control over the things that you have influence over. And the thing that our group in session 1 came to the conclusions that we really have direct control over is ourself. I don't care what things are going on around us. We do have control over ourselves. I don't care what someone says to us. We have control over ourselves. Very, very important, because a lot of times, or I should say often, we say, they made me do X. She made me, he made me. But honestly, we lost control. So we did this. Okay. So direct control is important to understand that whatever is going on in your life, you have the control to change it. And with that control, we have emotional intelligence. So what about emotional intelligence? Let's talk about that. So emotional intelligence, this was our second session. So we're going through here. I'm just doing a quick review, but in our second session, we looked at emotional intelligence. It can identify those emotions within ourselves and others. It helps us understand and manage our emotions, and it allows us to communicate our emotional feelings. And again, we're talking about communication. It's so important that we understand that communication is simply a tool to express our leadership. And I'm talking about the full holistic perspective of communication, not just the words we say, but all of our communication. Okay. Last but not least, when we talk about our review, let's look at the 4 sections of emotional intelligence. We have our personal and social competence, but first we have self-awareness. As we talked about in our last session, this is so important. And I think a couple of people that aren't self-aware. And how does that help them? How does that help you when you are self-aware? When you are self-aware, you're able to say, I probably shouldn't do that. I probably shouldn't say that. Self-management, how do you control yourself? Do you recognize when you're moving up, or when you are feeling a little hot? Are you feeling like you may say something that you probably shouldn't say? And then we move over to the social aspect. We talk about social awareness. Can you empathize with others? Can you read the room enough to say, maybe people are not understanding this, or maybe people are getting upset? So first we talk about our own control with self-management, but then social awareness says, well, I'm looking at people's demeanor and their communication, and I'm recognizing, I'm not sure. Maybe I need to backtrack. Maybe I need to slow down. Maybe I need to re-explain, whatever it may be. But that's social awareness. Can I show empathy to others? And last but not least, relationship management. How do you connect with other people? How do you work with other people? How do you communicate with other people? So I like to say that the self-management, self-awareness, and social awareness, we talk about ourselves first, which I think is so important in whatever we go to do, whether it's leadership, emotional intelligence. We always have to look at ourselves first, whether it's even diversity. We have to look at and be self-aware first before we start to comment and make changes with other people. But I think often, and I think this, people like to talk about relationship management, what others should do first, what he should do, what he should do, what she should do, instead of, hey, here's something I can do to make it better. Okay. I want to stop right there. Carrie, are those comments in the chat? I see 3, or is that something you put in the chat? Gotcha. Perfect. Okay. Before we move to our next section of connecting the dots, questions, comments on anything that we have discussed thus far in our review? Anything at all? All right, let's keep the ball rolling. Now, let's talk about connecting the dots, because I think this is important, because I believe that when we talk about or discuss topics such as leadership, emotional intelligence, communication, being a team player, or whatever they are, I think people take those topics in isolation, but they're really in collaboration. Okay, they're really in collaboration. So let's connect some dots. When we talk about leadership, aren't we talking about communication? Sure we are. When we're talking about communication, aren't we talking about teamwork? 100%. I mean, when we're talking about communication, we're talking about with other people. Maybe they're not on a team per se, but teamwork is just working with others. I mean, unless you're talking to yourself, you're talking to someone else. Okay. So surely you're talking about teamwork. But if we're talking about teamwork, aren't we talking about diversity? Yes. Because people on our teams in our respective institutions and our place of employment, they come from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different values, different beliefs, different ages, all those things that make us different. And we got to have the leadership, we got to have the teamwork and the communication to effectively talk to people that are different. And newsflash, everyone is different than us. Okay? Everyone is different than us. So diversity is all around us. You never get away from it. You only get more embedded into it, but it's all around us. You can't get away from this stuff. Okay? But if you're talking about diversity, aren't we talking about emotional intelligence? When we talk about those individuals that are different, what's our self-awareness like? Are we harvesting any biases? How do we use our self-management, control ourselves? How do we recognize and show empathy using social awareness to those that are different than us? And then how do we connect with them? How do we use our relationship management to better communicate and engage with them? But when you talk about emotional intelligence, you're talking about employee engagement, especially if we're talking about the workplace, for sure. So using our emotions, believe it or not, people don't want to be emotional, but we are. So then we ask ourselves, when someone leaves our interaction, when we're done speaking with them and connecting with them, what's the interaction like? Do they feel encouraged? Do they feel discouraged? Do they feel more satisfied? Do they feel dissatisfied? Okay. And last but not least, when we talk about employee engagement, aren't we talking about customer service? Yes, we are. Because I'm going to tell you something. If you don't like what you do in your respective workplace, you're probably not going to show the best and most genuine customer service. It's challenging. So I want to show you how everything is connected. When we're talking about customer service, even though we're not doing it here, we're talking about teamwork. When we're talking about teamwork, we're talking about employee engagement. Talk about employee engagement, we're talking about leadership. When we're talking about leadership, we're talking about diversity. When we're talking about diversity, we're talking about communication. When we talk about communication, we're talking about emotional intelligence. You get the point. So it's all connected. Okay. Now, I want to extend for a quick moment and talk about the 5 levels of leadership. Now, this comes from the book, 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. And what he essentially says is that the lowest level of leadership is position leadership. People follow you because they have to. And then the next is permission. People follow you because they want to, and production based on your results. Maybe you've been in an organization for such a long time. People follow you because of what you've done for your organization. And number 4, people development. People tend to follow you because of what you have done for them. But number 5, respect, or what he calls the pinnacle. People follow you because of what you represent. People follow you because of what you represent. And this is going to lead us into our communication portion of our program today. Something I want you to keep in mind. What we represent is based on our communication. Yes. What we represent is based on our communication. Whether it's verbal, nonverbal, in our tone, our ability to listen. I think listening is a form of communication as well. So here's a test. Now, you can throw this in the chat. Give me a thumbs up if you know exactly what I'm talking about when I describe this. Each one of us, we have someone in our life that when they call us, text us, or email us, you look at the phone, you look at your computer, and you say, oh my gosh, what do they want from me? You're not happy to see their name. You're not happy to see their phone number. You're like, what do you want? Throw it in the chat, a thumbs up, I agree, whatever, to let me know that you have that. So as soon as you see that name on your email, You say, what is happening? Yes, exactly. Okay. That's communication. Yes. Thank you. I see a thumbs up there. Thank you. That's communication. The question is, how do we want to, thank you, how do we want to use our communication? It is a powerful tool. And I truly believe, keep in mind this, as we're talking about communication. Communication to me is like the internet. Once you put it out there, it's always there. Here's another one I want you to just give me a thumbs up. How many of you have someone in your life right now, whether it's personal or professional, they said something, they did something, and they have apologized. They have said, I am sorry, but you know what? It still sticks with you. Throw me a thumbs up. And it has really hampered the relationship. Yes. A 100%. Let me go to the chat. What we got? Plenty. Thank you. Thank you. So what I want you to recognize is that we have to be mindful of what we say. Sometimes we have to be mindful of what we think. Okay. All right. 2 things I want to give you with communication really quick. Number 1, you don't have to say everything you think. You know, some people say, oh, I need to speak my mind. Do you? The question is, if you say this, does it help or does it hurt? Something I want you to keep in mind. If I make this comment, does it help the situation or does it hurt the situation? Just because it's on your mind doesn't necessarily mean you have to say it at that moment. Let's go back to our emotional intelligence, going back to what we talked about in session 2. Sometimes we have enough self-awareness to know, this is really going to take me over the edge. But then we lose the self-management and the control, and we just start to talk. And now we have to backtrack and apologize, but we already said it. Does that make sense? And once you say it, it's out there. Okay. And number 2, this is a good quote to write down. Someone told me this quote, never miss a good opportunity to shut up. How about that one? Never miss a good opportunity to shut up. Wow. Does that save the day? Sometimes silence is louder than words. How about that? Sometimes silence is louder than words. Okay. So what I want you to keep in mind is that we have to use our words wisely. We cannot just use them just to use them. All right. So what makes this idea of communication so challenging? Well, here's something to consider. We have what is said, we have the speaker's bias, the listener's bias, and then what is heard. So just think about this. How many of us have ever stop, Carrie? How many of us have ever prepped the conversation in our minds and we say, hey, we're going to say it this way. And when they say this, we're going to respond this way. And then we'll just solve the issue because we're communicating, everything is fine. And you go according to your plan. But the problem is the person that was listening or that is listening, they didn't know the plan, right? And they are not on your plan. So everything that you've said to them, they're just getting more and more irate and upset, and it totally goes wrong. How many of you have ever had that experience? Just give me a thumbs up. And that is the reason why is because the listener has bias. And here's what I want you to keep in mind right here. Past experiences. Past experiences. See, I've always said this. If you don't have a good rapport with people in your life, having difficult conversations becomes that much harder. That much harder. Why? Because if I don't like you, I'm not going to listen to you. mean, it's just that simple. If I don't trust you, I'm not going to listen to you. So, there's so many books written on how to have a good, how to have crucial conversations or how to have difficult conversations. I'm going to tell you something. If you want to improve your communication tomorrow, here's something you can do. Work on your relationships. When you have a good rapport with people, you have a better opportunity to have better communication with people. Okay. So you have the comment of what is said, and then the speaker, the tone, the words, the body language, the expression. Now, all the while, as you're saying whatever you're saying, now I have a great video. I'm gonna show you a quick clip of this. All the while you're saying this, the listener is taking all of this information in. They're making their own assumptions. Maybe they have a certain distraction. They're going off our past experience, whatever it may be. And from all of that, now again, your information is being filtered through all of the listener's biases. And now the listener has heard whatever you intend, has heard your message. But the problem is maybe they didn't hear what you actually wanted to say. That's what makes communication so challenging, because it is not filtered through just a genuine relationship. It's past experiences, past conversations, perceptions, and beliefs about you. And then that information is heard. Okay. So, a couple rules to communication I think you should consider. Number one, we're always communicating. Yep. We're always communicating. Good people, there's a time we're not communicating. I don't know when we're not. And keep this in mind. Today, I hope you won't relegate communication to just words. Oh, it's so much more than that. So much more than that. So that's number one. Number two, relationships influence communication. Relationships influence communication. The better the relationship, the better the communication. And what I mean by the better the communication, I mean that it can be more of a two-way street. You'll be more willing to listen. You'll be more willing to consider. And last but not least, at least this is my third rule, is that listening is the lost art of communication. Listening is the lost art of communication. So often when we're having a conversation with individuals, especially if we call it a spirited conversation, our objective is to get our point across. I got to get my point across. So if I get my point across, then you'll listen to me. And not necessarily. I think we have all had instances where we tried to get our point across and we actually got nothing accomplished. Okay. So I want you to consider it takes time to listen. It takes patience to listen. But I think I mentioned in our first presentation, everybody wants to feel valued, everybody wants to feel appreciated, and everybody wants to feel recognized. Listening helps people feel valued. Listening helps people feel more appreciated, and listening helps people feel more recognized. Listening doesn't cost much, but it's worth a lot. Okay? So areas of communication that we're going to tackle today. Number one, you got to consider body language. I'm going to put some numbers to these. Number two, it's your tone. It's your tone. Your tone matters. Number three, the words you say. The words you say. And number four, listening. Listening. The lost art of communication. We do a lot of talking. We don't have enough listening classes. So today I want to give us a little time and a little attention on listening. Okay. But before we move into our numbers, someone help me out. What do you think, what makes listening so challenging? Throw it in the chat. What makes listening so challenging? What you got? What makes listening so challenging? Thank you. We got some assumptions. Yes. The urge to add to the conversation with our own experience. Yes. Let's keep going. What makes listening challenging? Disinterest. Yes. Maybe you don't care. Disagreements. Okay. Don't talk about the same thing. Good. Good. Distractions. 100%, especially if there are internal distractions, like maybe your stomach hurts, or maybe you got a headache, or maybe you have a lot going on in your personal life. And then you have external distractions. Maybe it's too loud. Maybe you hear kids screaming, whatever it may be. Attention span. Let me add to your list. Number one, people don't have the patience to listen. They don't have the patience to actually listen. Because that's exactly what it takes. It takes patience. You got to be willing to say nothing to hear everything. I'm going to say it again. You got to be willing to say nothing to hear everything. And that's challenging, especially if you have something to say. So that's number one. Number two, listening takes time. And we would rather spend our time talking than listening. We would rather spend our time expressing our ideas than listening. Okay. Okay. Let's put some numbers behind the body language, the tone, and the words. Here we go. There was a study done by at USC, and it stated that 55% of body language comes from, 55% of communication comes from body language. 38% of our communication comes from our tone, and 7% of communication comes from our words. So that means when you take the 38% and the 55%, 93% of communication comes from everything that you display and not what you say. That's powerful stuff. It really is. And I'm gonna tell you, let's go through a couple cliches that we all know. Actions speak louder than words. Isn't that true? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. We've all been in a meeting or having a conversation with someone, and we have read the room, right? We were using our social awareness and our emotional intelligence. And we were reading the room, and we noticed someone had maybe a scowl on their face, their body language, their arms folded, their body language. We noticed when they answered a question, they had a little edge to it, their tone. Maybe they didn't say a lot of words. Maybe they didn't say any words, but we noticed all of that body language and that tone. That's what we noticed. So I want us to ask ourselves this rhetorical question within ourselves. On a consistent basis, what does our body language and our tone say to the people that we communicate with on a consistent basis? Very important. Very important. Okay. A couple things to keep in mind about nonverbal, because we're going to stay here for a moment, or body language. Number one, it can produce 1,000 different messages, and provide some clues to our emotional state, our short-term feelings, how we feel about the environment, our mental well-being, our personality and mood, our physical health, credibility, and whether we are or we not. Nonverbal communication is very important. We have to be mindful of our body language. Okay. Now, got a quick activity for you. Bam. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to consider what is being said in these pictures. I'm going to need your help with these. What is being stated in these pictures right here? Okay. So I'm going to get the music going. I'm going to give you maybe a minute. I just want you to look and consider, And then we're going to come back together as a group and throw it in the chat on what is being stated in these pictures. Give it some thought. Be right back. All right. I see some of you have already started the party. So let's do it. Let's point out the pictures here. We'll move my chat here. What about, I guess you can't see that. Let's start in the upper right hand. I think someone already started, but in the upper right hand corner, guy has his head down right under the number 16. What do you think is being stated in that picture? What do you think? Sadness? Okay, could be. Good. What else we got? Can't do it anymore. I've been there. Disappointment. Yes. Okay. Now, we are all drawing these clues by just the position of this individual. No words are being stated. We're making assumptions. Okay, thank you. What about the picture below? The gentleman, white shirt, hands crossed. What you got? What you think? I wish these were more pleasant for you, but what do you think? Upset, not interested in listening. Judgment. Okay. Strong words. Stern. Dad, a boss, disappointing, child, or employee. Yeah. There's no right answers to these. Waiting to be convinced. Thank you, Danielle. Yeah. Good. Okay. What about the picture in the middle? The young lady pulling out her hair. What you think? Trying to get your kids off to school in the morning? That would be me, and I don't even have hair. Okay. Overwhelmed. Thank you. Wants to get out of a situation. Yeah. Frustrated, stressed. Okay, good. And what about the gentleman with his hands out? I'm making the assumption that's the gentleman. So yeah, or the person. I don't know. But what do you think is being stated in that picture? What do you want from me? Okay. Trying to calm someone? Yeah, maybe. Offering help? See, Carrie, that's where my mind was. Offering help. Yeah. Okay. What about the picture above that? Now that Jerry Springer moment, what you got? Explaining something? Okay. So it looks like the girl and the guy. What do you think is happening in that photo? What is being stated? Frustration, disinterested. Oh my. Okay. Having a disagreement? Yeah. Just by looking at the photo, okay, we are making assumptions. And we are filtering those assumptions partially based on what we've either seen or experienced in our own life. So I want us to keep in mind when my first rule is we are always communicating. You just with your hands crossed or you with your head down or possibly pulling out your hair is communicating something. Always. You cannot get away from communication. Okay. That's the 55%. Now, let me ask you a question here, family. Someone sends an email. Okay. Someone sends you an email without using all caps, without using emojis or any pictures. How do we get the 55, the 38, and the 7? How do we get that full spectrum of communication out of emails? Can't use all caps. You can't use emojis or any pictures to express feeling. How do we get that out of an email? Throw it in the chat. What do you think? How do we get that? Because we do. We still get the body language. We still are seeking the tone. and we're always reading words. The message coming across, okay, yes, to be specific in what they say. Okay, sure. Yes, but how do we get the body language and the tone is my question. The words are the words. That's the 7%. How do we get that 93% out of an email? Think about it. Assumptions, yes. Periods, pauses. Call them from clarity, yes. Jacqueline, but you already reacted to the email, right? You already reacted. How do you get that out of an email? 55%, 38%. What do you think? We're getting close. I'm going to give you a hint. It has nothing to do with the words. Nothing. Oh, we do. Let me ask you a question. How many of us ever read an email? There was no caps. There was no all caps. There was no punctuation. And you read it and were like, what? Why would you say what? Why did you say that? It was nothing out of control or nothing that made, it was nothing, let's say, like no one used profanity or no one was even belligerent in the email. But how do we get that 55 and that 38%? Context. We're close. I'll go ahead and throw this out there. Past interactions. The relationship with the person. That's how we get that body language, because we read that email based on the relationship we have with that person. Here, let me give you a very simple example. Someone says, come to my office. That was the email. Hey, could you come to my office? If you have a negative relationship with that person, you'd be like, come to my office? That was so rude. Well, don't you can't demand that I come to your office, right? If you have a better relationship with that person, come to my office may be like, yeah, what do you need? I got the email. What's up? Based on that past relationship. That's why I'm a firm believer that if we want to improve our communication, we can start with relationships. It's a lot easier to have conversations with people that we have a good rapport with. Okay. And guess what? That takes two things: time and patience to build that relationship. Okay. It's all connected. Poor relationships, great communication, they don't work well together, because your best communication in a bad relationship will always be perceived as negative, period. No one ever says, oh, you spoke so well, but I hate your guts. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Like it doesn't work that way. So you got to be mindful of the relationship. Okay. That relationship may allow you to proceed from a communication standpoint differently. It's not universal. Okay. I mean, like we can't just communicate with people all the same. And to prove that, I want to talk about this. Next, our tone. Okay. The reason why I put tone here is because a lot of our tone really extends from our emotional EQ. Okay. So the more self-awareness we have, the more control we have, I really believe the better our tone will be, especially in some of those moments where we feel like we're losing a little bit of control. Okay. So with that, I would love to show you this. Let me show you this really quick here. This is a commercial. Has anyone ever seen this commercial? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay, if you've seen this commercial, a little State Farm commercial. But let me show you this and then let's talk about it. Here we go. And Carrie, could you let me know just a thumbs up if we can hear this?
Call you back. Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
That's why State Farm is there.
What a day.
With car insurance for when things go wrong,
What a day!
but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Thoughts. What does this have to do with what we're talking about today? Throw it out there. Throw it in the chat. I'd love to hear your voice too, but I'll read it from the chat. Let's see what we got here. Tone, yes. Same words, different situations and tone. Yes. Yes. What else? Another thing I want you just to okay. Expression and body language, 100%. Here's something else. Folks, we can't use the same words in the same tone with different people. I mean, we have to use different tone, different tone, different body language with different people. We can't communicate the same to everyone because every situation may warrant something different, as the video expressed. Though it's a commercial, but it makes sense. You can use the same words in a totally different environment and it will mean something totally different. Okay? Totally different. If we want our communication to have a flow or connectedness, we want to sound more authentic, then we have to make sure that our words, our tone, and our body language are saying the same thing. Example, if I say, congratulations. Yes, the 7% of me said congratulations. The 38% of me said I don't care. And my body language is saying, I don't care if you did it or not. I don't really want to congratulate you. But if I say, way to go, congratulations. My words said the same thing. My tone has a little more energy toward it. And my body language is a little more appreciative. You get my point? So if you want to have congruency in your communication, you got to make sure that your body, your tone, and your words are all communicating the same thing. Okay, let's keep moving on here. We got less than 15 minutes. So here we go. Let's talk about words. A couple things I want us to keep in mind with words. We got to make sure that your words, your message is clear. Okay. So as someone already stated when about gaining clarity, so important. So important. All right. Don't include words with hidden meanings. Okay. And what about using jargon that maybe some of your audience may not know, or a person may not know for that matter? So we just want to be mindful of that. And here's something that I think is important. Make sure that we keep our information relevant. Only use relevant information in your messaging. And let me also talk about words in this regard. And again, we're making a connection. Let's go to team building. You know, one of the team killers that I've always found was gossip. It's a team killer. And honestly, it's an unfortunate way to use your words, your 7%. Because it makes it challenging to work in an environment where you feel like others are talking about you. And when we say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt, that is not true. Words hurt. They hurt a lot. And in our current climate, I think we will all agree people are a little more sensitive to the words that others say about them. Whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent, that's where we are. So I just think it's so important that when we think about our words, we don't just use them to use them. We use them to uplift, encourage, and sometimes, again, never miss a good opportunity to shut up. Because the question is, when you use your words and you inject yourself in a conversation or a spirited discussion, how does it help? Did it help? Or does it make things worse? That is simply by using our words. So I just want you to be mindful, even though words are 7%, and I don't want to discredit them, they are critical. Okay. All right. I'm gonna move on from our next activity here. Let's just keep going really quick. Last but not least, I want to talk about listening. Empathy listening or empathetic listening. A couple things to consider. Number one, empathetic listening is the heart of listening. Because we move to number two, we actually see people or others' point of view. That's what POV means, point of view. We see people, their different perspectives, their different, the challenges they're going through. We try to put ourselves in their situations. Okay. And then feeling what others feel, number 3. That is really important. Like when we're talking listening, it's not necessarily just to sit and listen and be like, yeah, okay. Because we all know people that say they're listening, but they're typing or texting. And it's like, are you really listening to what I'm saying? So we have to be willing to listen with the patience and the time that other person requires. That is so important. In the team aspect, we miss that often. We kind of gloss over listening. Like, yeah, what do you got? Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, I don't know. I'll get back to you. But listening is truly valuable in the context of a relationship. I mean, if you have children, you know how important listening is. My son comes home, he's telling me about his day, and he's going a mile a minute. Blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm trying to keep up with all the jokes and the things that have happened. And there'll be times, and I'm guilty. He'd be like, did you even hear what I said? I'm like, yeah, you talked about your friend. I'm way off, right? And he always has an expression on his face like, you didn't care about what I had to say. Again, what does listening cost you? Nothing. But what is it worth? A lot. Okay. Last thing I want to do is this. I'm going to give you about a minute to 2 minutes. The importance of listening. I want you to come up with 6 ideas on why listening is important. 6 ideas. Don't put them in the chat yet. We'll just go 1, 2, 3 on down the line, but give it some thought. 2 minutes, and then we're going to discuss it. I'll get the music going, and then we are done for this session. All right. All right. Your time is now. All right. Got about 8 minutes left. Okay, I would love to know. Let me get my chat going. Hey, let's throw some ideas out there. Let's talk about one idea. Or let's throw out some ideas on why listening is important. What you got? What'd you come up with? Be respectful. Hey, that's actually my number 1. Let's talk about that one. Shows respect. Shows respect. Okay. Better understanding. Good, good. What else you got? Okay. Understanding, empathy, trust. Good. Kindness. Yes. To engage and make connections. Speaking of connections, I'm going to add to your list. Oh, that's a good one too, Danielle. Grow your knowledge. What about builds relationships? And speaking on what Danielle had to say, number 3, it increases your knowledge. It increases your knowledge. So let me just stay here for a quick moment. Why does listening show respect? How could that show respect to someone? What do you think? We want it in return, sure. You're giving them the space to be open 100%. Because you're paying attention and you don't interrupt, sure. It shows others that they're valuable, sure. There's no necessarily right or wrong answer, but I don't believe respect is universal. Everyone has a different way of being respected, but I think we can all say that when someone is taking time out of their busy schedule to just listen to our ideas or thoughts or even complaints, we are appreciative of that because listening is that important. We all want to be heard. Nobody on this call wants to be dismissed or feel like they're being dismissed, like they don't have value. Okay, so it shows respect. Now, what about this? How many of us would agree that when someone listens to us, it shows that they care? Thumbs up. Right? Now, if we want to build a connection and build relationships, thank you. If we want to build connection and build relationships, guess what we have to show? That we care. Someone else, I think it was Kerry, who also put in trusting. Like listening shows that we can trust you. Oh, The third thing we need for a good relationship and to build connection, the person has to believe they can trust you. And lastly, I think someone else put this in here. The first thing, if we want to build a connection, is people have to believe that you can help them or that you can be of assistance. Right? So to build relationships and to be connected, a good place is starting with listening. Okay? To increase knowledge. Okay? What about generate ideas? We don't know everything. So it's so important that we listen to other people to get their ideas. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. But do they feel heard and do they feel empowered to express themselves? Number 5, builds loyalty. So true. So true. I will tell you, when you feel that people don't listen to you, you don't communicate with them easily. Doesn't happen. Okay. So in order for us to build that loyalty, we have to be willing to listen. And what does it take to listen? 2 things, good people. Number 1, it takes time. And number 2, it takes patience. And last but not least, it's a great way to help yourself and others. That's the importance of listening. Good people, I have 3 minutes to spare. That's my time today. Questions, comments, concerns, would love to hear your feedback. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Well, I thank you for sticking with me. I know we had a hiccups last week, but you came back. And I hope to see you on May 5th. Yes. I hope to see you on May 5th, where we're going to talk about how to be a great team player. 100%. Thank you all. Thank you. How to be a great team player. And we're going to take everything from our leadership conversation. We're going to take everything from our emotional intelligence, as well as our communication. And we're going to wrap that all in. How do we be a good team player, whether that's, personal or professional? Okay. So yes, Carrie's putting in all that good information. If you want to go to YouTube, and this is on YouTube, Carrie. Oh my goodness. My mama like
it's on our YouTube channel.
Your YouTube. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Titan Tube is our YouTube channel. Nice. And there's a playlist for Ron's presentations. But you can also view all of the past presentations so that we can catch up. And you can participate in that leadership series through the recordings. If you just click on the links to the events in that news posting that I posted, the link.ivytech.edu/FW leads. That's the entire news posting about the whole leadership opportunity, the series opportunity with opportunity for scholarship. Completion gets you a $50 gift card. I mean, we've got lots of things going on. Plus, I'm going to send you, just for participating, even in one session, I'm going to send you a little gift for being here. So as always, we thank Ron. He's the best. He's the host with the most. And we will see hopefully everybody on May 5th. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Have a good one.